Welcome to our first actual lesson in Religions of the World. We will begin with Hinduism. Here on the screen you can see the symbol for Hinduism. I don't know how many of you recognize that already and know what that means. It is Sanskrit for Om. Om is kind of the life force or energy that is in the universe and gives the universe life. It's kind of easy to draw when you think about it. I think about it like a 3 and then a little backpack on the back, and then you have a little basket in the top with a dot there, which is which symbolizes the abode of the soul that is sitting on top of the life force Om. Hinduism is actually not the correct name for this religion. It is a name that people from outside of Hinduism have given it, mostly the British, when they said this is the religions that are practiced beyond the Indus River. Hindus would recognize this as Dharma, as a way of life. Scholars even refer to it as Sanatana Dharma, which is the eternal life. It is an old tradition that goes back into the Bronze Age and Stone Age, even in the area of northern India. Hinduism doesn't actually have any founder. It is more of a combination of many ancient cultural practices and thoughts and ideas that came together and eventually formed what we know as Hinduism today. It goes back to the Vedic period. Hindus believe that there was an old time when the old sages in the forests received inspiration from the gods, and that those beliefs were written down in the Vedas, the oldest scriptures of Hinduism. Put yourself back into the Bronze Age, for example, when people were living in tribes and were just beginning to build cities and were beginning to expand their power from smaller entities to larger entities, starting to build empires. During that time, it was very important also to believe in gods or higher powers that direct your life. In the absence of being able to explain certain things like we can do with science today, when there is a thunderclap, lightning and thunder, for example, which today can still sometimes make us very, very scared, but at least we know why this is, right? With tension in the atmosphere, and it produces lightning and thunder, so we can explain that. But in the Bronze Age, people were not able to explain that. This is not just specific to Hinduism, this is generally true for religions in the Stone Age and the Bronze Age. And so everything was ascribed to the power of the gods or the ultimate reality. They were named usually as gods. They oftentimes had very anthropomorphic or human-like natures, these gods, that needed to be pleased in many ways in order to have a life that was comfortable. And so what's transmitted to us through these Vedas and these early inspirational writings are the stories about the different gods. The world is being explained through stories. We call those myths, or the collection of different stories that explain the origin of the world, for example, and the reason for certain things to be. We call that mythology. Today we think that myths are untrue. And oftentimes when we look at them scientifically, yeah, that's not how we understand things to have happened today. But they bear truths. The fact that something has existed, or the explanations for certain realities. And so the myths or the mythologies of the culture are very important to learn about and to understand the life of the ancient people. And so even in the old cultures in India, there were stories about how the universe began and who all the various different actors are. By the way, let me ask you this. Do you think that Hinduism is a polytheistic, monotheistic, or what kind of religion? Most people today would probably say that Hinduism is a polytheistic religion, right? Because of all the many gods that exist and all the many different deities that are being worshipped or venerated in Hinduism. But wait for it, that's not how scholars see Hinduism. So let us begin today with a video on one of the creation myths in Hindu culture.